Bexy Starks.
What do you do?
I am an AD for the upcoming movie Healed.
So we're here to discuss healing, being healed, in the process of healing from something. Um, what, which one are you, and what are you claiming to be healed from or in the process of healing?
I am currently in the process of healing, and I am in the process of healing from forgiveness. Um, Not only within my 44 years of living, the things I've been through in life, there was a lot of not forgiving others. I didn't forgive a lot of people for the pain they caused, for the things they have done in my life, or for the things they've said, the things they've put in motion to try to destroy me. And a lot of it started off as me being a child. And as I got older and became a mother, I am learning slowly but surely to start forgiving, but not only in the present, but in my past.
What was it in your childhood that you couldn't forgive? What happened in your childhood that you couldn't forgive?
My first trauma was at 8 years old. I was raped by I don't. He's not even worth mentioning, but I was raped. And
Let me ask you a question before you go further. So you're raped, you're hurt, you're violated, yet and still you won't throw the weight on the person that done it. You hold that weight by not releasing the title, the whatever of this person. Why?
mostly because I've given him all that attention, and because of all that attention and all the me holding on to the person's face, the person's name, and the title of who he was in as a family member, it 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 was more than a lot of weight on me. I didn't get to realize it until now. I mean, back then I was young. I didn't really get the whole point of why he did it, the who he was. But growing up, as things kept happening to me as I got older, because that wasn't the first time, I started feeling that he wasn't even, that it wasn't even his fault anymore. And now I started blaming me and started blaming everything that I went through or everything I allowed to happen. It was just pointing the fingers at me of why it happened.
How many times has it happened?
Um, 5 times.
Hmm.
5 times. Started at the age of 8. That was the first one. After that, I was sent to go live with my grandmother. She raised me. And then I wanted to be around my mother's side of the family a lot. And my mother ended up being incarcerated, and I was put in a foster home with my siblings. We were all separated, and I was raped again by my foster father, which caused me to run away and go back to living with my grandmother. But because again, I wanted to be I wanted that mother. I went back, and my mother ended up, going out, leaving us alone. I ended up sneaking out with my, cousin and sister, and I ended up not knowing how to get back home. I was left at a party, and another adult male pretended to bring me home, and he ended up taking me under a bridge and choking me and raping me and then dropping me off in the middle of the street in front of my mother's house.
Are you healed from that?
For majority of it, yes, I am. I was able to forgive, but not forget. I was able to handle things certain way. And that's why I think I said I'm still in the process of healing, because through all of it, out of everything that was done to me, this whole time I was blaming one person and one person, well, two people. And the first person I was blaming was my mother. Always wondering, why would she allow this to happen to me? Why me? Why out of, everybody, why me? The second person was me. I'm like, well, maybe I shouldn't act this way. Maybe I shouldn't have done this, or maybe I shouldn't dress this way, or maybe. So majority of the time it was always me and her that I was blaming. It wasn't until I got to my adult. It wasn't until recently, actually, that, not really recently, but a couple years ago, where I wanted not an explanation, but more of a understanding of why it happened, or why she allowed it to happen. And we came to a realization that at that time, she didn't know what to do because things were done to her. And she felt that not only did she apologize and she explained all her trauma in her past, but once she hit that point and once she ended up telling me about everything she's gone through, to me, it was like what I've gone through was really nothing compared to what my mother went through as a child. And I think at that very moment was when I realized that I'm ready to forgive. I'm ready to stop hating her. I'm ready to stop hating everybody that has done things to me. And I just wanted the best. I wanted to move forward. I didn't want it to weigh on me anymore. It ruined a lot of relationships in my life. It caused me to not have trust in men. And especially, like people like my father or not my uncles, or I didn't really know how to trust. I became very vulnerable, especially to men. I was always believing what they said, or not even believing. I was just always accepting. Oh, okay, well, if I didn't give it to them, they would take it anyways. Or if I didn't do what they said, they were going to just take me as they please anyways. So growing up was tough. And like I said, the healing process started now that I'm a mother and a grandmother.
What did it look like the day you knew you would begin to heal?
The day that there was a battle that I was fighting within myself, and this was a couple of months ago, I started telling myself I wasn't good enough, I wasn't enough, I was tired, I didn't want to exist no more. My kids were better off without me, my husband was better off without me. It wasn't until that moment that I got in a vehicle and started driving. And so many things were running through my head. And the very first thing that came into my head was, go ahead, drive off that cliff, because you're going to get your hopes high again. And you're going to get to that point where you're going to still not feel good enough or valued or appreciated or wanted. It wasn't until that moment where I started seeing flashes of all my kids and just everything that my mother had told me that she has gone through, that I started to let everything out, started screaming while I was driving, and I ended up pulling over and just sitting there and was just like, yeah, look what she went through, and she battled it and she won. And it wasn't until that communication, that break, that chain that actually broke, that was weighing both of us, me and my mother, down. that I started feeling a little bit better. After I pulled over, I got back, I got out the car, started breathing, got back in the car, drove back home.
What day was that? What day was it? A Monday, Tuesday? What day was that?
That was, I believe, it was a Saturday.
Saturday. Was it a regular Saturday? What was different about this Saturday?
I was having issues with my adult kids. I was, for 25 years, it's always been me and my children. It's always been about me and them. I've never got to the point where I always put them behind. Everywhere. If I was homeless, they were homeless with me. If I was in hotels, they were in hotels with me. I made sure that they were always with me. But I hindered them a lot from a lot of things. I try to shield them a lot from a lot of things, and I spoiled them a little bit too much, to the point where they always feel like I have to be there consistently for them. And that day I got into an argument with two of my older adult kids, and I was just like, enough, I'm done. I can't. I could lead you to the water, but I can't make you drink it. So I'm gonna lift this burden off me. It's gonna hurt me to let you fall, but I need you to fall in order for you to pick yourself up, because if I'm not here, I need you to understand what picking yourself up feels like. And it wasn't until that very moment that a lot of stuff started just piling up on me.
Now that you're healing, I think you have to be hopeful that the future is better than the past, correct?
Definitely.
What is it, what brilliance do you see in your future once you are completely healed? Give me an imaginary scenario that you would wish you want to see in your life once you are completely healed.
I want to see myself be an advocate for a lot of young women that's been abused and always felt as if they were at fault, or it's their fault that they're living the life they're living. I'm starting to implement certain rules in my life, and one of them is you can't sit there and blame somebody for their actions. You could only choose how you react to that. And once I started implementing that in my life, it started becoming a great eye-opener, because I started seeing a lot of people for who they were. But I see myself being an advocate, a tremendous advocate to start helping women heal, of all ages. You don't have to stay silent no more. You don't have to play victim no more, because in reality, we're not victims. We're all survivors, and definitely there's a lot of them out there that still are silent in what they do, or they're so traumatized or so embarrassed that somebody might be like, oh yeah, you know what she did, or her past, or this, or that. And what I came to realize is that I'm not living in my past anymore, and a lot of people still do. I'm standing in my truth, and I'm living in my future, and I'm trying to move up, and I'm just trying to elevate everybody else along with me.
What's your name?
Bexy Starks.
What do you do?
And I'm an AD for one of the production team, Healed.
Thank you. What's your name?
My name is King. It's my title, Orenthal Dennis.
What do you do for a living?
Right now, I work at Bosch Rexroth as a machinist in a machining area, and But that's just my job. My passion is my acting and singing and doing God's work.
And what's your latest project?
My latest project is the movie Heal.
And what role do you play?
I play the father, Pastor Charles Williams.
All right. The movie's called Heal.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody prior to you has discussed what they're being healed from or what they have been healed from. Let's go another route. What have you done to another person that has caused them to suffer?
Wow. I have got violent. I got violent with a not just one, just some people that I just felt at the time was the only thing that I knew. Some things transpired, and that was just the only thing that felt comfortable to me at the time. Because it was almost like, and I'm not saying what they did provoked it, because we have control over our own emotions and feelings at that time. But when that happened, I kind of lost it. Because what they were saying, per se, wasn't directly the truth. And I just couldn't do any more talking.
Okay. So sometimes getting violent is justified. Has there ever been a moment when you've been violent without justification? And did someone suffer because of that?
Yes.
Let's talk about it. Tell me about it.
It was, this was in 2004, I want to say. I had just came home from the service. I was in the Marine Corps, and I was married at the time. And we had a gathering at my ex-wife's sister's place. Everybody was over there. And this particular night, like I said, I hadn't even been home probably a year. So I was still Marine Corps ready, if that makes sense. I always backed up and watched my surrounding areas, just a form of PTSD. So make a long story short, me and my brother-in-law at the time and my nephew, who was all outside, we was drinking and rapping and all of that. And this cop pulled up. No lights on, no nothing. And it was dark, but it was a light in the place where we were in front of the trailer. So he just approached me with the baton that extends with the ball on the end. And when he walked up on me it was completely dark. When he walked up on me, you know, I took offense. And I was like, you know, what's going on? So he asked me for my ID and everything. And I was like, no, I just got home from service, and this is how I'm going to be treated. And make a long story short, my nephew ran in the house and told my ex-wife, because one thing about me, when I snap, everybody can't calm me down. You really got to be into me. You feel what I'm saying? And I got to have a deep love for you to calm me down. Everybody just can't calm me down. And that's something I've been working with God with to this day. And so he grabbed my arm and I said, please don't grab me. And this is a cop in full uniform, no undercover, no nothing. And once that started, he grabbed me again, and I grabbed his arm and I twisted it. And he called for backup. To this day, I know it was nothing but God to have me sitting here, because when I tell you I beat that cop, and I continue to beat that cop, and even when they called backup, I was fighting them. I completely lost it. And I don't know if you know about the tasers that are like the guns, but they're like 50 volts plus. And they come out in pairs. I had a total of 10 holes in my body, which means I had 5 cops shooting 50 plus volts. And I think to this day that still did something to my nervous system, because sometimes I'll still have shakes or something to that nature. And I'm not saying they do, but we talking about 50 plus volts times 5. And that went on. I was fighting them. I was standing back up and pulling them out. And they was still shooting. And I was still fighting. And when I beat that cop, it was just like, I wish that wouldn't have happened. But I know it wasn't nothing but God on my side. And it even started from a childhood, the anger that I had. And so, kind of to sum it up, my heart stopped in the middle of the violence. And that was after probably about 45 minutes. I mean, who fights that long? It was a battle. And had they been the cops that they are today, I wouldn't be here.
So, you're healing.
I'm still healing. I'm still in the process of healing from anger that I had as a kid.
Let's talk about it. Let's talk about the first moment you realized that you were angry. The first thing that made you angry, and people pointed it out, and that's when you realized that you had an issue. When was that?
Well, when I was born, I had a speech impediment, and I couldn't talk. I stuttered so bad, really, really bad. I'm talking about bad. And I was born with seizures. So, of course, when you're around kids, and then on top of that, when your parents strict and all of that, like you have to come in before the light come on and all that. Like I went through all of that as a child. I had sisters, but I was the only male and the baby. So of course I got at times too. And my dad and my mom, they had me when they was older. So like for instance, he's 82 now. I'm 47. You know what I'm saying? So he had that old school training, and subconsciously he didn't know that he was my bully. And I don't blame him. He showed me the love. I was always in a 2-person home, but it was it was not do as I say. No, it was do as I say, not as I do, if that makes sense. My mom was an affectionate person. My mom the one that taught me love. And so between that, my dad trying to get my dad's validation as a son and trying to get him, to say I love you, knowing he showed it, but sometimes we have to hear that word. I got it from my mom, but I didn't get it from my dad. And then to get picked on because of my speech impediment and stuff. I started building up in school. And it wasn't that I should have gotten a lot more fights than I did in school, but it wasn't because of the kids, it was because I was scared of my dad, what was going to happen, if that makes sense. And so as I grew, I never detached from that, and that anger grew.
When was the first time you had an episode?
You talking about just a regular fight or a...
Just anger, explosion, blackout, uncontrollable.
I remember this like it was yesterday, still to this day. I was in elementary school, and I had gotten on the bus, riding the bus home. And at this time, my dad was still driving the truck. So he wasn't home. By the time I got home, my mom was there. And I never could do, this is going to be funny, but I never could do the your mama jokes. I never could. I could not. Everybody, I couldn't do it because I was so close with my mom. And this little boy made a joke, and they was like, look, he upset, he about to cry, not knowing how angry I had started getting. So I got off the bus. I went home, and my mom gave me a hug, asked how my day went. I dropped my bag, and I walked in the washroom, and at this time my dad played softball. He was playing softball. He was real good. And I walked in there, and I grabbed a bat. And I walked back out the door. My mom was asking what I was going to do with that. And so the bus in our neighborhood, it had to go down and turn around. It couldn't just drop us off because it was a neighborhood. And I walked back up to the stop sign where the bus was going and was standing there. And my mom had to come up because I was getting on the bus. And I told my mom I was going to beat this little boy to death for talking about it.
And did you?
Oh, she grabbed me. And she said, son, he don't know me. And I just started crying.
How do you think your anger has affected your adult life?
It definitely has had its effects. It landed me in jail.
For how long?
Just a few. By the grace of God, that's all I can keep saying. By the grace of God, I never went to prison, but I have been to jail about 3 or 4 times for it. I tried to beat a dude half to death.
Why?
Disrespect.
What kind?
At least it's what I thought.
Mm-hmm.
Just flat out just talking, and at that time I didn't have a range. I didn't have a meter. It was just like from 0 to 100. And you just kept talking, and I snapped.
How has your anger affected your relationships?
It had it has had some effects on some relationships that I had, even when I was married. Because I give so much. I try to give love, and if it's not reciprocated or if it's not accepted, I feel like it's a laugh in the face. If that makes sense, because I'm trying my best to be this good dude, this man of God and everything, and I know I got a past. I know I got demons. I know that I'm fighting this flesh. I understand that, but I'm open. I'm an open book. It has had its effects. It has. Some people say, you know, you're crazy, but you two different people. You schizo, like, but you just don't understand me.
How long have you been on this walk of faith with God? When did that start?
That I was actually brought up in the church.
How long had you been away from it?
I never separated. I never got away from God. Even in service, I never got away from Him. I guess I was more rebellious. Some things that I seen even as a child, but I never turned my back on God, if that makes sense. Some things I didn't understand, and then my first child, she lived for 12 days, and I definitely didn't understand that. God took my first baby, and you got people out here that's having multiple kids that's not even trying to take care of them. And I had my one, and I hold my baby in my hand. She never made it out of the hospital. She lived for 12 days, and that was anger. I was angry.
Is anger satisfying?
At that moment, the person think it is, but it's not. I can be honest and say that it's not. It may just ease what you're going through right then and there, but you have to understand it can have an effect on you in the long run.
How many children do you have?
I have two. My first one is in heaven, and I have my child now. She's 10.
Has she seen you get angry?
I try not to let her. She has seen me start to get upset, but when she's around, I cut it. I walk off. I just try not to let her see that side of me.
So you're healing. What does healing look like for you?
Being able to endure someone telling me how they feel, or no, you're not worthy enough to get this job, or no, you're not this, or no, you're not that. And I just try to walk off and go to God, because if I know if I talk to me, I'm gonna have something to say. So it's a process. I've came a long way, especially since I had my daughter. And I don't want people to think I'm a bad person. I walk around angry, because not most of the people that know me will tell you this dude like to trip and like to have fun and all of that. But at the same time, when I got upset, that's the same energy I gave. Even when I was playing ball, that stopped me from going further. My coach, I never forget it. My coach told me, he said, he's an excellent football player, but he's a walking time bomb. But his wife told her, she said, he just need nurturing. And we're the water. To put like I walked around. I never walked around as a lit match or as a lit bomb, but it didn't take nothing for it to go off, if that makes sense. Because it started as a child when I was picked on. And so as I grew, it grew. And I never pulled it up by the root, I would just prune it.
When do you pull it up by the root? When do you get rid of it? After 47 years and a 10-year-old daughter on earth.
Yeah, it's like I said, I've came a long way. I definitely came a long way.
How much further do you have to go?
I don't know. I don't walk around like that. I don't walk around with an attitude or with vengeance or anything to that nature. I don't, especially since my daughter came. I'm more humble. I'm more grateful, because that night when I got to fighting and my heart stopped literally, they had to call the ambulance. And just to add to that, I know that God was with me. And that's what really started my transformation in a relationship with him, because I had an out-of-body experience. I literally stepped outside of my body. And some people I have told this to, and they was like, "Are you serious? I'm my right hand to God." That light that you see, like the old folks talk about, that starts as like a bright little light and it swirls down. I seen that light. I was in that light. And once, between the energy I was putting out and the negative that they was putting in, my heart stopped. And I don't know about you, but anytime your heart stops and you have no pulse, you were dead at the end of the day. And I was laying like that for about at least 30 to 35, maybe 40 minutes. But I was looking at everyone. My wife bent down, everybody was out there, the paramedics was pushing. I was literally standing there looking at them like this. And I asked God, I said, "Is this it? God, this how it's gonna end?" And a hand came out of that light, out of that tunnel light, because it was swindling down. Whatever word you want to use, it was getting bigger. And a hand came down and hit me in the chest, and I woke up. Never forget it. I'll never forget it. And then when I did go to jail, I was supposed to have assault on an officer. I was supposed to have all these charges. I only got resisting arrest and a disorderly conduct. And then it was thrown out of court. Wasn't nothing but God. Nothing but God.
5 years from now, what does a healed OJ tell a healing OJ? I'm sorry, King Orenthal Dennis.
I hear OJ would say, to keep your faith. To keep your faith. Walk by faith and not by sight. And this is on my cross. Walk by faith, not by sight. So everything you see, it doesn't mean that you have to give it power. And that's where I messed up. I would give stuff power that didn't even deserve my power. Me giving it. Even though it was minute to them, it was big to me because of where I started at. So that's what the new healing OJ would tell the old OJ that's still having a problem. Don't get that no power. No matter how it look, God is bigger than that. God is bigger than any situation that you're in. So don't give it no power. You give him the power. And you trust solely in him.
What's your name?
King Orentha.
What do you do?
I am a machinist right now currently at a company. But my passion is my acting and my singing and doing God's will.
And what's your latest project?
The latest project is Heal.
And what role do you play?
I play the pastor, Pastor Charles Williams.
Thank you.
You're welcome.